Well, the Steelers not only lose, they're exposed in their biggest game of the year on national TV against a playoff team. Yeah, it was that bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football, 17 to 10, lost to the Buffalo Bills. This is a Steelers post-game edition of Mic Drop here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, brought to you by Steelers Now. I am your host, Mike Asti, and 17 to 10, and I don't even know that score does enough justice to this game for Pittsburgh, as Cam Hayward said it best, and you'll see that on the website in the locker room section. There was plenty of blame. There was plenty of blame to go around. The second somebody tried to blame the offense by itself, he jumped at them and said, no, we didn't get off the field enough, we didn't do enough, and we weren't good enough on defense, and he was correct. But the most unsettling part of this game, the Steelers have played good teams this year. They have. And some of those games they squandered, going back to the Niners game with all those turnovers. They didn't get points off those turnovers. Even going to the Ravens game, in which the Ravens win the North, they win the division, they have the MVP of the league on their team. Steelers dealing with a bunch of backup quarterbacks, especially in that game. And yet the Steelers probably should have won that game. But none of that would have really mattered if the Steelers could have showed up and played their best here against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. But the national audience and the Steelers getting flexed to this national game because of the playoff implications, because of how big this game became to Pittsburgh, got to see the Steelers maybe aren't ready for that Cinderella postseason run, and Duck Mania maybe isn't what many of you thought it was. I said this last week. I said this in my last show. I've actually been saying this for weeks, that Duck has played well. He's played better than expected, especially for a guy who got cut from the team in training camp, that nobody thought he would ever make this team this year, that received praise for what he did in training camp, but was a fourth stringer out of Sanford. And if he was your quarterback this year, you thought that would be doomsday and all hope would be lost. He's played okay. He's played adequate. He didn't make the mistakes that, say, Mason Rudolph made earlier in the year, which eventually cost him the starting job. That's not the case here in this one. That's not the case here tonight. And as I sit outside the press box somewhere here, maybe press room, cafeteria, I don't know, the Christmas tree, we're in the Christmas holiday season, even Santa Claus himself couldn't help Devlin Hodges and couldn't help the Steelers against the Buffalo defense. Because as much as Cam Hayward, and he's a team leader, he's going to do this, wants to take the blame and wants to say this was a total team effort in the loss, I'm not here to say he's wrong necessarily. The Steelers defense didn't play nearly as well as earlier in the season. They didn't play well enough, and they didn't get stops when they needed to. Buffalo did enough on offense with Josh Allen and company, but the score is 17 to 10. It's not 37 to 10. And I'd like for Cam Hayward to maybe remember, and I'm sure he does, but I'd like to recall for all of you that the Steelers defense, and we touched on this in past shows, including a past post-game show here, same spot without the Christmas tree, that the Steelers defense led to several wins for the Steelers this year, much more than their offense has done. The offense played well against Arizona, played okay against Cleveland before it, finally seemed like maybe they were getting things going, finally finding a sense of continuity with Deontay Johnson, James Washington, and even Benny Snell last week, and Devlin Hodges doing enough. But Minkah Fitzpatrick with all those turnovers for points. T.J. Watt, multiple sacks again here in this one, setting a new standard for Steelers linebackers, which is saying something, looking like a potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate. If this team would get into the playoffs, and that's still very much a possibility, it's because of the defense. It's because of T.J. Watt. It's because of Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's because of Cam Hayward. It's because even of Joe Hayden clinching those last couple games with interceptions to seal them. That's what has won the Steelers and has helped create Duck Mania, and Mason Rudolph before him when he actually was winning games before. His mistakes lost him the job, and the offense puttered, and now maybe the same thing here with Devlin Hodges. So Cam can put it on the defense. This game was lost mostly by the offense, okay? Neither offense was amazing, but this was a typical playoff game in terms of low scoring. The weather didn't affect things, but low scoring, smash mouth, what did Tomlin call them? A rough and tumble outfit. Yeah, rough and tumble outfit is usually Steeler football. That's usually what the Steelers want. That's usually AFC North ball. Buffalo not an AFC North team, but fitting that mold a little bit, so a team the Steelers could be familiar with. But in the rough and tumble games, the team that makes the most mistakes loses, generally speaking. So the defense allowed 17, and that includes several shorter drives and field position in favor of Buffalo because of mistakes from Devlin Hodges and the offense. 4 picks in the game, and a couple of them into the end zone late, but still 4 overall picks. Earlier picks were even more critical because it hampered the team at that time when the game was very much still in hand for Pittsburgh. And Devlin Hodges in the offense just never truly got going. I don't know if that's Connor not being fully healthy, and he did get in that game sparingly. They didn't get close to the running game they got with Benny Snell before, who was able to do it for him there. They had some deep pass attempts in the game to James Washington and Deontay Johnson, but nobody was really able to grab the brass ring, so to speak. Juju misses another one. And as Juju's had a rough year for sure, and he's also been involved in some controversy. He's not played well. He's not been able to be that number one after AB that many people thought he would be able to be, and he needed to be. And I said all through the offseason that was a big deal. They had to find the number 2, but Juju had to step up as being the number 1. That all would work hand in hand to help him with the double coverage going his way. Didn't play well. Didn't even play in this game, though, as he's missed several, but regardless of how he plays, they desperately need him back because he does create so much more space, and now Deontay Johnson and James Washington are facing those double coverage that they can't deal with. And all of that came to fruition. All of that was evident in this game against the Bills more than really any game this year, and the Bills are a playoff team. The Buffalo Bills are going to the playoffs back-to-back years. That almost sounds weird to say. That's insane for where this franchise was most of this century, of this millennium. And this is a Buffalo team that with Josh Allen is up and coming and budding, and it's being proven, and the Steelers are incredibly in flux. And I talked about this on a recent show as well, that Devlin Hodges has played adequate football for sure. No one's going to get too mad at him for being a 4-stringer out of Sanford and stepping up. Mason Rudolph played okay for a while before starting to make the mistakes. And even Devlin Hodges now, with his struggles, it's hard to be too upset. But this team, to have a true chance and to be so much better, needs Ben Roethlisberger back. And this is even more of the reason why Ben is going to start no matter what to open up next year. But really, this game is going to bring up an interesting question the rest of this week and really the rest of this season. I don't think this will occur. I think Tomlin will wait on it because it was one bad game, but Mason Rudolph played well for a while. The fans were all over him. They loved Mason Rudolph, okay? The boyish good looks and the charm, and he looked like a GQ cover model there for a while that we threw up on the website. That churned content, but he played well. He did. And then he started making mistakes. Then he started having the 4 interception games that puttered things away and cost the Steelers. They can't have the quarterback hurt them and cost them games. That's what Tomlin kept bringing up in his postgame session with the media here at Heinz Field after Sunday Night Football. And Devlin Hodges now, after playing well for a while and Duck Mania going crazy and a big inflatable duck outside the stadium and on top of the merchandise salesman there outside the stadium there as you walk through the North Shore exit down the north side. Once you now add those 4 interceptions, it's an entire different ball game. The question's now going to become, the debate's going to become how much. And I want to hear you guys. Your opinions on this. How much longer do you stick with Devlin Hodges? What is the leash for Devlin Hodges? If it's similar to Mason Rudolph? I don't know how much longer you give him. He now has basically cost them a game with his poor play. And yes, he's an inexperienced and proven guy, and you're getting a lot out of him than you would have expected. But still, he's a starter now. You got to be fair. What's going on, and he was trying to do way too much. He was throwing some crisp passes. He was putting it where only his receiver could get it. But then, when they weren't eventually getting points out of those drives, he would freak out and try to do way, way, way too much. Okay? That's the bad Devlin Hodges. That's the bad stuff that I don't care who's quarterbacking the Steelers absolutely can't get over. And that brings up the point of, do you put Mason back in there? Did Mason learn something from losing his job? Maybe he'll now take care of the football better. He's still been dealing with tons of practice and dealing with some of the first team guys in practice due to all the injuries. Wouldn't be a catastrophic thing for Mason Rudolph in terms of learning anything. Would be far easier for him now to jump in after having played those many games than when he started at the beginning of the year in place of Ben. So that's something to think about. But I wouldn't change it right now, but the leash wouldn't be long, because I made it clear, and many of us made it clear while the fans were wrapped up in Duck Mania, that when Devlin got the Steelers starting job, okay, when he became the Steelers starting quarterback and got the gig over Mason Rudolph, it wasn't as if he was out playing Mason times 10. It wasn't an incredible, dominating performance week after week by Devlin Hodges. I'm not saying I would expect that or require it, but that's how some fans were acting. That wasn't what was happening. He was playing okay, adequate football, the 5 for 11, 7 for 13, less than 200 yards passing. Those type of games were what Devlin Hodges was putting up. What he was doing that Mason was not doing, he was taking care of the football. He wasn't turning over the football, and he wasn't having points be led to the defense. He wasn't helping the offense. He wasn't helping the opposing offense out, for a matter of speaking. He did in Sunday Night Football. He did against the Bills. If Devlin plays like this, it doesn't matter who they're going to play in the playoffs, they won't win. If Mason Rudolph plays like this, it doesn't matter who they're going to play in the playoffs, they won't win. They might even not even get there based on losing these last 2 games of the year, as they now need those as must-win victories. And Baltimore has everything wrapped up, so that'll be, maybe easier than you would think, despite the team. The Jets are obviously a dumpster fire, but who knows? These teams could get up for this game in terms of trying to eliminate the Steelers. The Steelers made it very hard on themselves, even though it still appears they're probably going to squeak in somehow. And it doesn't almost honestly matter. The whole conversation of Tomlin Coach of the Year, of what's going to happen next year, and Ben needing to be that quarterback and Ben coming back and starting, those conversations are fun to have, but none of that really matters to this team now, except for just getting better. And who gives you the best chance to win next week will be the question. That's who they will go with, and then they will go from there. I'd imagine what they're going to do is Devlin will still start for the Steelers, but he'll get about a half of football. And if that half of football is a 2-interception half where the team's losing, that's a situation that I could see Mason coming in that second half, much the same way he relieved Mason Rudolph earlier in the year in a similar situation. Again, these guys have had similar numbers, okay? One has the boyish good looks, the other one's Duck Mania, he's a professional duck hunter. It's a cast of characters for the Steelers this year. Ben's looking like a lumberjack on the sideline, looks like he doesn't really care. Trust me, he wants to play out that contract. He doesn't want to go out this way. He's going to want to come back next year, and he'll be the starter next year. This proves it no matter what. Because if this team makes the playoffs, if this team has a playoff run, it's thanks to the defense. That's why I don't care what Cam Hayward says. I can't get on the defense and be mad at the defense for any mistakes they made in this game or for not getting enough stops. 17-10. You held a team under 20. Okay? This is a Buffalo team that scored more than that against many other teams. You need more than 10 from your offense. You need more than Chris Boswell, the kicker, being your offensive team MVP in some of these games, and his comeback season has helped this team and been very underrated to this season. Imagine where they'd be with him even being anything less than a Pro Bowl caliber kicker, where he was 2 years ago and now back again this year. But this Steeler team has relied on the defense throughout most of the year. I'm giving them a mulligan. I'm okay with giving them one mulligan, but it's not even like it was a horrendous effort, no matter how much Cam Hayward, being a leader, wants to take it on himself. The fact of the matter is the offense isn't dynamic enough. And yes, it would be more dynamic with a Hall of Fame quarterback, as much as some of you guys don't want to admit that. But that's not where they are right now. And as much as I love talking about next year and shows like that and who should be winning awards and getting the debate of drama, this team now has one question for next week. Okay? One question for next week to worry about. Who is your quarterback that can help you the most? Is it Devlin Hodges? Is it Mason Rudolph? Again, I want to hear from you guys. I want you to tweet me at MikeAsti11 on Twitter. Throw up comments here on this video. Throw it up there on the premiere in the little live chat there that scrolls, but also comments down below. And when you're down there in the comments, make sure to click on the subscribe button if you don't already. Subscribe to our channel here, Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can also throw up the follow to PGH Steelers Now on Twitter and at PGH Sports Live on Twitter. And of course, visit SteelersNow.com for this show, all of my shows, videos of player reaction, as well as all our in-game coverage, off-season coverage that'll be coming maybe sooner than later, but all the analysis, the news of the week, everything we do there, it's all for you, SteelersNow.com. And, just kind of in closing here, the Steelers, they lost as a team. They're going to say that. They're going to say it's a loss as a team. But Devlin Hodges takes this loss. And that's being fair. He's the quarterback of the team. If you want to praise him when he wins in Duck Mania and kind of overrate him a little bit, then to be fair, he didn't play well enough. 4 picks, trying to do way too much, throwing basically punts out there. And not all of them you want to be punts. You want to score more. You want to get more drives going. And just really careless with the football overall. And that isn't going to be enough for the Steelers to win the rest of this year, to win in the playoffs, to have any chance of anything. That type of quarterback play can't happen. That's the quarterback play. That's what lost the job for Mason Rudolph. Okay? That lost the job for Mason Rudolph. That play, making those mistakes, that's what cost Mason Rudolph his job. Nothing else. They were playing similar. That cost Mason Rudolph his job. So now does it cost Devlin Hodges his job? Because Devlin Hodges is now reverting to that same situation of playing okay, taking care of the football, winning, not having to do tons, and then, of course, making the mistakes that killed the team. That's going to do it for this one here. Wanted to get a post-game show together here from, I said it's a closed location before, but it's outside the press box. We're actually in the cafeteria. The media won. We got our chicken fingers in the press box, and nice little decoration there, the decor for the holiday season. So this atmosphere is good for us, but for the Steelers, it was a funeral-like atmosphere after that game, and Devlin Hodges is still young. He's not really the leader of the team. He's inexperienced, so he talked about all the players coming around him and kind of picking him up. That's great, but it was a funeral-like atmosphere. It felt like they were eliminated from playoff contention or lost the playoff game, when that's not the case. But that is a good team. That's the best, well, one of the best teams they played all year, a playoff team, and certainly kind of indicative of what you may see in the future. So I'd stick with Devlin for a little bit, at least the first half of next week, but a very, very short leash, to be fair, similar to what Mason Rudolph dealt with earlier in the year. Adequate enough, made the mistakes, lost the job, got a half of football to change, didn't do it. Devlin comes in, Duck Mania. That's the same situation I feel like you're in right now on the reverse, because the Steelers are in must-win games. They made it harder on themselves. They didn't play well enough as a team, but this game is, no matter what anyone on the Steelers says, no matter what anyone says, it's on the offense more than anything. It just is. They made way too many mistakes, and you won't beat anybody in a game like that, in a big game, making those kind of mistakes really against any team. And the defense has played so well this year, it's hard to hate too much on the defense. Again, make sure to hit us up here, Pittsburgh Sports Live. Click on the subscribe button on the channel, make it easier for us to get content like this, golden quality content, win or lose, to you, the people. Also at PGH Sports Live on Twitter, at PGH Steelers Now on Twitter. You can tweet me, reply here in the comments, but also throw it up on Twitter at MikeAsti11 on Twitter. Follow the family of networks, PittsburghSportsNow.com, Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Pittsburgh Soccer Now, WV Sports Now is the newest member of the Now family, covering the Mountaineers down there in Morgantown, and also, of course, SteelersNow.com. So it was a total team effort in a way, but no. This game's on the offense. The Steelers' loss is on Devlin Hodges and the offense, and they really know it. And it exposed the team for what they really could be. This Cinderella story seems to be over. It was fun while it lasted, but I think reality has struck the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe Steeler Nation too, and maybe makes you dream of those days of Ben Roethlisberger and maybe complaining about him in some way. I think you take all of that back right now for these current Pittsburgh Steelers.